Hi, this is Ed, and you're on Global TV Talk Show, and I'm in San Diego. And in just a few minutes, we're going to be welcoming to the broadcast Steve Burson, and he's going to be in Singapore. So here it is August 8th, just about 4:45 afternoon time in San Diego, California, and it's tomorrow morning in Singapore, just about 8 a.m., coming up to 8. So Steve Burson is CEO of Relo Network Asia and also Relo Japan, and has several other businesses. Really fascinating business guy. Very energetic and real bright. So I'm looking forward to this broadcast. We're going to be discussing business in general as we all get back from pandemic problems. God, I wish they'd go away, don't you? So we're going to be talking about DSP services and what's new and exciting or not, or what should be different. And we're also going to be talking about this issue of remote working and how that's impacting the DSP, in other words, destination services provider. So, the DSP, the destination service provider, is like where the rubber meets the road because they have hands-on with the transferee and interface with a lot of different people, and they're critical to the success of a relocation. So we're also going to be talking about supply side issues and who doesn't have them. So we'll be right back. Thank you for watching Global TV Talk Show. We'll be right back. Thank you. This is Ed in San Diego, and thank you for being on Global TV Talk Show, a unit of globalbusinessnews.net. Our very special guest today is in Asia Pacific, Steve Burson, who's in Japan, but he hops between Japan and Singapore. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So you've got a number of titles I was reading on LinkedIn. So we'll just zero in on a couple, and then you could
Okay,
add
sure.
CEO of Relo Network Asia, and also president or CEO of Relo Japan, and then some related things too. So Relo Network Asia, this is what, independent business who operate as a network.
Yes, I mean we call it a network, but it's all our own. So
Yeah.
We're basically a DSP in 15 countries in Asia. We're providing services in 15 countries in Asia.
So DSP, for those uninitiated out there, means destination services provider.
That's correct. Yep.
Right.
So,
now in the US, the realtors, relocation directors, sort of the same thing, but not really. But it's, as I see it, from a US perspective, and going back many, many years when I was publishing print guides, relocation guides, the realtor relocation directors were huge advertisers all over the country, all over the US with me. California bound was our biggest, but New York bound was also big. So you are where the rubber meets the road in the business of talent mobility. I mean, you're right on target there. If you guys don't do a good job, it's going to hurt that transferee family, and that's going to go right back to the company. And so you're really on the front end, aren't you?
Yes, we are. We're the ones on the ground. Really, welcoming families into countries and dealing with their unique situations, and hopefully providing good solutions to what they need, whether it's finding a home or making sure they have a good school for their children to go to, etc. Every relocation is unique, and I think that's what makes kind of what we do really interesting.
Yeah. So in the early days, did you start your business based upon what your own personal needs were?
I kind of, like a lot of people, fell into this sort of mobility industry. I don't think anybody plans to get into it, but I've always kind of sort of, even when I was doing part-time work, it university, college, I'd liked being in the service industry and helping people, and I kind of fell into this industry and found that I could do that. I could find different ways to help people, and they'd be pretty happy about it, and that felt good. So I think that's where it comes from.
So in the U.S., the industry, the relocation industry, particularly on the real estate side, is really into sharing ideas. And is this true across APAC, or is it more limited to your Relo Network Asia?
No, I think there's a good amount of sharing. Now, obviously, we all running
Right.
companies, we all have our own proprietary stuff, but
Right.
I think there is a lot of good sharing. And I've recently been working with a group of people in Asia to create a sort of an alliance or an ERC type sort of function for Asia. A body that everybody can use to share information and things like that. It's called Asia. Sorry, I need to get this right. Asia Talent Mobility Alliance, or ATMA. So we are creating this sort of industry body so that we can facilitate more conversations here in Asia about Asia, because we really haven't had anything in the past.
Very interesting. Okay, so I have, because of, well, let me just back up a little bit. My live conference business crashed and burned because of the pandemic. 25 years of producing live meetings, just so decided, now what, so I decided now's the time to become to learn how to become a happy TV talk show host. And so that was in March of 2020. So now it's about 32 months later. We have produced, God willing, thankful, that almost 500 programs. And according to Google Analytics, we've achieved a total cumulative audience, what they call audience visits, page views, of about 190,000. About 70% US, Canada, 20% Europe, maybe 15% Asia Pacific in that vast area there. Right. So we're trying to grow Asia Pacific audience, corporate. It's just corporate B2B, but it's difficult. So we're starting to do a number of these programs focusing in on business people like yourself across the region. So between now and New Year's, we hope to have, well, I don't know, probably all your competitors, but I'm not sure you have any really, other than specific specialties.
We have a few, but they're all good people. So
yeah. So anyway, that's what we'll be doing here. So this is storytelling time. It's not a banner ad. It's not advertising. Well, of course it is. Just like you have your logo in the upper left there. So let's just talk about what is happening in the industry post-pandemic. Hopefully, post-pandemic. I still have a little cough, but is it different now than 2 years ago? The same kind of services, or is everything a little different?
It is a little bit different. I think, I would say probably 70 to 80% has probably come back to where we were before. There are some things that won't change. There's some virtual services that we're obviously better at providing now, and there's we can shake things up a little bit, and so some of that won't change. I think some of the supply chain issues, rather than COVID, what COVID has created in terms of really hot real estate markets. We typically work in the rental market, so so the rental markets in some locations like Singapore, Japan also to a certain extent, are really hot and providing some issues for us to be able to operate.
Yeah.
So very different people, from before.
Yeah, those transferees aren't shipping their household goods; they're renting, right?
Yeah, well, and shipping's another one that's been affected. So a lot of them were shipping before, but have had to look at alternatives recently, because it just is such a costly business to move your things around.
Right. Horrendous. Wow.
Horrendous, yeah. Depending on where you are, but in particular, heading from Asia out to Europe and things like that, just horrendous. And I'm not in household goods, so I can't really speak to it a lot, but yeah, things have been really challenging there as well. And just lots of different things. Even furniture, for example. For if you want to furnish your property and that sort of thing. Furniture leasing companies are finding it difficult in some locations to get supply of furniture. So it's affecting and this is happening worldwide, but our industry is not hasn't escaped a lot of these supply chain issues. So that has really sort of changed the way we have to operate. So the part that hasn't reverted is probably more related to that than anything else. So
what's this business of 1-day service?
Yeah, I don't know who invented this. I'd like to talk to them.
Have a word with them. Stop this.
Yeah. So somebody somewhere took, and home finding is probably the thing that we, finding people a place to live is what we do at the core. And somebody somewhere along the line took a 2 or 3 day program. Typically, it takes at least 2 days, if not 3 days. If you're a particularly picky person, then it might even take you 4 days to find a property in most sort of developed markets in Asia. And somebody came along and said, why don't we do this in a day? And some sales guy thought this was a great idea and sold it to a bunch of companies. And now we're dealing with, it's kind of like a company saying, we'll pay for your lunch, and you get to the restaurant and they give you half a plate of lunch.
Oh,
right?
no.
And then you kind of, that doesn't quite work for you. So you have to work with the restaurant to make that half plate into a sort of something that, you add a little bit more carbs to it so that, so it fills you up, sort of thing. So we're having to mess around with these 1-day programs, which is really not enough time to do our jobs properly.
No.
And the thing I don't understand is that everybody is talking about how to retain people, right? If you want to retain your people, why do you shortchange them with these 1-day programs and possibly put them through an experience which is not going to make them particularly happy?
Well,
it doesn't make any sense to me.
It sounds stupid.
Yes.
Not well thought through. It's not people oriented.
Right.
Yeah,
And if you want to retain your people and give them a good benefits package, for goodness sake, at least give them the minimum amount of time that is required for us to do our jobs properly, to take care of them, right?
So let's talk about the corporate client without naming any names or anything. Are they willing to pay these higher prices?
I think in terms of the sort of the way the world is moving and that sort of thing, they have been reasonably receptive to recent price increases. So I think it's the first time for as long as I've been in the industry that there actually has been some responsiveness to price change. Normally it didn't go anywhere, but I think now because everybody's seeing it happen around them, I think corporations are a little bit more, and perhaps there's a little bit more of this because of COVID. The duty of care thing, is more prominent. Good companies wanting to take care of their people properly, and if that means they have to pay a little bit more at the moment because of the way the world is, then a lot of companies are willing to do that and not shortchange.
Can I ask you a question about the recent merger? Just going through now, I guess. With BGRS and Serva. Now, BGRS is a Japanese-owned company, right?
It is Japanese-owned. I don't think there's all that much control from the Japanese side, though. I think they just own it. I really don't think they got to a position where they're doing, sort of influencing what's going on. Pretty much, I could be wrong, but yes, interesting merger. I kind of, the thing I can't figure out is the two companies are so different that I can't understand, and maybe they have a good, strategy for using BGRS's way of providing service for some things and using Serva's model for other things. Maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that is perhaps the differentiator in the market. I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Now that company also has an interest, if not ownership, in Air Inc., as I
They
understand.
do. They do.
Yeah.
And yes, that's been reasonably successful for them as well. And
Mhm.
you know, they've managed to sell quite a lot of Air services in Japan as well.
Yeah, well, it's
You
a
know,
good company. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that has worked quite well for them.
So a friend of mine who I'll leave nameless, and the company was based in Texas, but um, that they were, this is going back before COVID, when I was actually doing Houston meetings.
Right.
um, this employer in tech was purchased wholly owned by a Japanese company, and that manager of people, and under that was mobility as well, in Texas, um, told me in a conference that I hosted,
Yep.
that the Japanese way of doing relocations at the time, anyway, was that
Yes.
they wouldn't let a family go anywhere unless they were absolutely guaranteed, secure in their own minds, that they could fit in without causing disruption and harm to the company by screwing up while on assignment. And so that's really a cautious, very conservative, but actually in the long run, it's a terrific thing. So what's your view?
Yeah, I guess and I don't know if that, you know, that particular company might have that culture. I guess the Japanese often will have the, you know, the principal, you know, worker, whether that's you know, typically it's a man, unfortunately. But you know, to have the husband, you know, the assignee go first to check out the
Yeah.
place, to find a place to live and that sort of thing, and then several months later the family will you know, come into location. That typically is
After they're all prepped and
yes, yeah,
prepared. Yeah.
and that's just the way that they operate. I guess it I don't know, that's a model that, you know, they followed the person before them, and that's what they did, and that's
Yeah.
kind of become a
Yeah.
trend in the way that the Japanese work. There definitely is not a lot of outsourcing of, you know, they do a lot of stuff in house, right? And you know, I guess it comes back to the thing that you know, service is so such a big thing in Japan, but it's not really something that's paid for. It's expected,
Mm.
but it's not really something. So Japanese companies have a hard, you know, have a hard time understanding, you know, paying me or, you know, our organization to provide services for them.
I get it.
It's just
Yeah.
something they can't get their head around. They can conceptualize a real estate commission or something like that, but that, you know, because they have that in their own market. But you know, paying a you know, a home finding fee or something just doesn't kind of, they find it very hard to comprehend.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to about this idea of remote working from home, and
Yep.
DSP. Do you want to address that briefly?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it just for us as a company, and you know, we have a lot more employees in Japan than we have in our Asia operations, so a little bit more lean in Singapore and our other locations. It's been, you know, two and a half years. People have been at home a lot of the time, providing service virtually or whatever it is, and it's been a hard transition and a very fast transition back into having to get out and provide service, and you know, and not to say that we didn't do any services during the COVID times, but it wasn't as regular.
Right.
And you know, the people that did have to go out and do that did it. You know, they put their clients first and sort of had to risk, you know, themselves, you know, in getting COVID and that sort of thing to go out and provide services. So I'm you know, really grateful for them doing that. But we didn't have the amount or the frequency of service provision that we have now, and it's been a really hard transition for people to, you know, get out of their houses and go back to providing service, and then,
I know,
you know,
boy.
getting them to come back to the office, right, when it's obvious that they need to communicate with their peers, has been just a really challenging time for us. We
For
still haven't
everybody.
quite figured it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
You know,
So you're finding this across your network, your Relo network Asia? That's the same
yeah,
kinds of problems?
yeah, I guess it's everywhere. I mean, Singapore, we're totally 100% work from home. Like, we don't even have an office. We are getting together for meetings a little bit more now. But yeah, it's been difficult to kind of figure out where, how much should we be together? How much should we? We want to allow people, the flexibility, and people like working at home. But what's sensible from a business perspective versus, meeting everybody's personal needs.
Yeah. So if I can just ask you real quick about some of your network partners in, say, Manila or Vietnam or Myanmar.
Myanmar, yeah.
Is it the same kind of operations, same kind of work attitudes as is common in Singapore and Tokyo?
Culturally very different between each country.
I bet.
So you need to kind of learn how to operate best in those countries. We have local people, local consultants that are used, that know those locations. We need to figure out how to interact with them, but obviously they're more attuned to how things are done in that location. So we rely on that a lot on our teams in those countries. But very, very different to country by country.
Very quickly, this is not a political show, it's strict business, but about Taipei. Have you noticed a fall off in work orders or not yet?
Not yet, no. And sort of the China related, China countries, if you like, in terms of China, Hong Kong, Taiwan,
Macau. Everybody's waiting, breathing next.
Yeah, I mean, they've all been reasonably conservative when it comes to COVID, and their protocols are some of the strongest in Asia in terms of getting people into those countries. So we've seen a drop in volume going into those countries simply because it's more difficult to get people in there. And so how that now changes for Taiwan, I'm not sure. And hopefully this is just going to blow over and we'll go back to what we had.
So are things in Hong Kong okay?
Things in Hong Kong, yes. I mean, things are back to normal now. And we're seeing a reasonably good volume come into Hong Kong now. Obviously, the way that sort of China is positioning Hong Kong, I think, is changing, and that's going to change things from sort of an expatriate point of view. And depending on the industry and depending on how much work you're doing in China or how involved the business is in China, then people may choose to stay in Hong Kong, or they may choose to perhaps look at other locations like Singapore or Tokyo in the future. But it's hard to tell sort of how that's going to develop.
As we come near a close here, I thank you very much for doing this. Are you involved in Kuala Lumpur?
Yes, we have a company in KL.
Yeah, it's nearby you. I'm not really familiar with the area other than I look at a map.
Yeah, it's a 40-minute flight from Singapore. So yes, very close.
Yeah, okay, great. Steve Burson, thanks for being on Global TV Talk Show. It's really been a treat. I've learned a lot in this fast 20 minutes here.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
Great. All right, please come back sometime.
I will do. Okay.
Okay, that's Steve in Japan, and sometimes in Singapore, and I'm in San Diego, California. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.